Namaskar. Inspired Talks of Swami Vivekananda. Om Namah Sri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Sachit Sukha Swarupaya Swami Netapaharine. So, Inspired Talks of Swami Vivekananda, we are discussing July 17th. It was a Wednesday talk by Swamiji to his disciples. Those of you who have been joining late, let me tell you that each of these talks, each one, is complete by itself. If you have time, eagerness, patience, you please listen from talk number 1. And you will see that by time you reach this talk, which is I think number 60 or so, probably you may like to listen from the beginning. Well, that is what many people say. That is the beauty of spirituality. That it touches you so deep that you feel like being in it. Now, on July 17th, Wednesday, I hope many of you have the book. If you don't have the book, it does not matter. Swamiji is there in the Thousand Island Park with 10 or 11 or maybe 9, because the number was fluctuating, disciples, and pouring his heart out. While pouring his heart out, he was covering many dimensions of life. And being a monk and being a Vedantin, he was mostly discussing religion and Vedanta in particular. Here in this talk, Swamiji is talking about one particular aspect of Vedanta, which is consciousness. Nowadays, consciousness has become such a pet topic. It's a fad with the scientists and the literates. They don't realize this simple thing that every time they're talking about consciousness, they talk about mind. But in Indian traditions, consciousness is something that you experience only in samadhi. And once you return from samadhi, then you know that it's all consciousness. Because in samadhi, what you realize is something intuitive. Once you come out of that samadhi, your daily life becomes thoroughly colored with this knowledge. Now, before we continue with what Swamiji has been talking, which is pretty deep, a few things we need to understand. First one is, as we mentioned, that you can have the knowledge of consciousness only in samadhi. This is what every master has said, and there is no question of argumentation over it. Because they will say that consciousness is beyond argumentation, it's beyond debate. See, there are certain things, only yesterday I was telling someone that if you want to be a peon, if you want to be a school teacher, a doctor, engineer, anything, you need to have a degree, you need to have some training. But when it comes to religion, the most funny thing is that scientists who have no knowledge about religion, even they talk about it. You're a scientist. You're trained for science, not for religion and spirituality. Whatever your profession, first you get trained. Your thought process becomes like that. So you should keep yourself confined and extremely restricted to your branch of knowledge. You shouldn't go beyond it. Anyway, this is what our masters have said about consciousness. Now, what is one single thing about consciousness is that you instinctively know that everything is conscious. When I have this pen, I know that this is inert. Now, my knowledge may be wrong, my perception may be wrong. That does not matter. It just does not matter. For example, for a kid, a leaf that is moving is conscious. A river that is moving is conscious. But as we grow, we realize, no, they are inert. So, first thing that you realize in your meditation, in the depths of samadhi, that there is consciousness. It's a solid mass of consciousness. That means there is no differentiation. Now, this is a most important point. There is no differentiation. Now, whether you read the Upanishads, whether you read Shankaracharya, Swami Vivekananda, Sri Ramakrishna, Ramana Maharshi, everywhere you come across the same thing. It's a solid mass. That means there is no division in it. It's a solid thing, complete solid thing. However, as far as we are concerned, we, the common, we find that differentia is there. I know that this microphone is different from this microphone, and these two are different from this pen. Where from comes this difference? Where from this problem comes? Excuse me, there is some problem with our connection. It's a regular problem with BSNL people. We have a lease line, but I don't know if you are able to. Are you able to listen? Because they're showing that connection is unstable. Just anyone, if you could please write it. It's a problem with people that they just can't be sincere about their work. Okay, fine. Dimpleji has said, fine. Let me continue. Now, when you get into this samadhi mode itself, when you get into samadhi, the spiritual realization that you get, popularly known as God, you have two kinds of realization. One is God with qualities, and there is God without quality. Now, why it happens, we don't know. So, greats like Ramanujacharya, they had experience of God with qualities. Sri Ramakrishna had this experience of God with qualities. And later he also had God without qualities. And when you read his Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna in Bengali Kathamrita, you find this discussion continuously. This discussion is continuously there. That so I'm feeling slightly uncomfortable because it's continuously showing that I don't know. I mean, very annoying. Every second, third day they have this problem. So I don't, and it disturbs the class so badly. Just have little patience. Just a second, please. Let me do something about it. This is a regular problem. Please, hold on. Let me see if something. মহারাজ আপনি এতে আছেন অফিসে ও একটু আবার ওই কানেকশন প্রবলেম করছে একটু কর্ড একটু হয় আমার ড্রয়ার থেকে নিয়ে আসবেন নিচে আর নাহলে নিজের এখান থেকে একটু করে দিন তো ওনার দেখতে পাচ্ছেন না কেউ So anyway, we are trying to make alternate arrangements. So we have to go through the phone. Actually, it's very annoying saying connection is unstable. Anyway, so the real problem that we have in religion, now we are not going into the affair of science, etc. We are discussing only religion. When you are trying to relate this re- the experiences in samadhi with the so-called reality with this world, the so-called, there's this serious problem of, it's a very serious problem of qualified objects. Qualified objects mean here is this microphone, it's a qualified object, and here is this pen, this is a qualified object. So we have, if there is a mass of consciousness, how come it is that we see this differencia, we see all these differences, or is that we see these objects with qualities? একটু এই ফোনটাকে একটু ওখানে লাগিয়ে দেখুন না ওখান থেকে Oh, it says you are visible and audible. No, I'm feeling. They're going to continuously showing your connection is unstable. So just a second. We are connecting through phone. It should be already in a minute. I'm a little fussy person. If I find that perfection is lacking, I get disturbed. So just a minute. I think I will make up. So just a few seconds. Just a few seconds. No, there's no password. Take it. বললাম তো নিচে ডান দিকে রেতে I'm sorry, but just hold on. Actually, I don't know why this BSNL people, I don't know. I mean, they charge you fully, but when it comes to providing the services, I mean, this is the problem with India. When it comes to charging, they're very particular about the fees. When it comes to providing the services. Now, what Ramanuja does, this discussion here, Swamiji is discussing Ramanuja and Shankaracharya. What Ramanuja does is, he classifies the entire creation and everything, whatever is there, the entire existence into Chit, Achit, and Ishvara. That's his famous approach, Chit, Achit, and Ishvara. This one password name? Straight. And there's a lot of controversy on this because Advaita people will not agree to that, and followers of Sri Ramanuja, they will not agree to what Advaita says. However, Acharya Shankara's arguments are absolutely simple and clear. Absolutely simple and clear. Those of you who are interested in this topic, still show kuch. Still showing this thing. Do we need to change something here? Hmm? No, 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 no. So here in the top. No, leave it, leave it.
Okay.
Whatever goes. So, well, in that case, we can remove that if it doesn't work on Geo also. No, we can remove that phone then.
No, it's working.
But your connection is unstable. It is still showing. We have computer expert here. Let's see if. Anita Bairagi, don't be so harsh. Problem is with me only. talk. Or leave it. They are seeing. Everyone is seeing us.
Yeah.
Leave it.
Anyway, it will take the connection. If it is other one goes away, also it will pick it from the other.
Okay, you just switch it off.
Okay.
Anyway, we have made alternate arrangements. I hope you don't have difficulty. Sorry for the disturbance. Now, what Acharya Shankara does, he takes the entire issue of perception and consciousness at an entirely different level. Those of you who are interested, you can just open our playlist, Mandukya Karika, we have just started, and listen to the first talk where Vedanta has been discussed. See, it's a very simple thing. Here we have these great masters like Sri Ramakrishna, who is seeing mass of consciousness. And yet when we perceive the world, we are seeing multiplicity. So who is creating this multiplicity? Where from is coming this multiplicity? Now for Ramanuja, it is simple. He just says that there is Chit, Achit and consciousness. Now see, I am not a great admirer of this kind of view because see, I have been brought up in the tradition of Advait. So naturally Advait is my line of understanding and thinking. And in any case, wherever there is too many definitions, I'm slightly wary of it. Because the moment you say that things are like this definition, that definition, then anyone can come up with any kind of thing. You need to be hardcore rational. Go strictly by reasoning. Now, once you have defined certain terms, and with that you say that you try to judge others, no, I am not much in favor of it. Anyway, I am not an acharya and I have no right to discuss at this level. We are just discussing what Swamiji has been saying. So Swamiji says there is on the one hand pure mass of consciousness which is perceived by the sages. On the other hand, we have this multiplicity. Now, when things come to us, let's say through our eyes do not have the power to differentiate because like everyone knows that eyes are more like say camera. When you take a picture, whether it be two-dimensional or you use special techniques to have three-dimensional pictures, ultimately you get a complete whole. You get a solid mass. Just think of a photograph. Whatever the differentiation, it does not appear in a photograph. It comes in two dimensions. Even if it's three-dimensional, the photograph, you get as a solid thing. But we don't see world that way. Whatever explanation these biologists may have, this, that, no. The fact is, the senses do not have the power because, for example, I had this cataract operation last year. So they just changed the lens. That means ultimately it is something physical. It's just physical. And if it is just a lens, then it will behave like any other lens. And what does any other lens does? It projects whole thing as a one single whole. And yet we are seeing things differently. Why? On the one hand, you have these sages who in the state of meditation have seen one one single thing. And physics also says it should be one single thing. And yet we see the difference. Why? Something else enters there, and that is brain or mind. Those working of mind. See, we are not going into the detail of whether brain is produced by mind or mind is produced by the brain. Those of you who are interested in this topic, we have a series of talks in English on Raj Yoga. Please listen. There we have detailed it. So now mind comes into play. And it is mind actually, is the mind which creates all these differences. So difference neither lies in reality nor lies in so-called perception. It lies in the mind. This is where Advaita transcends every other system of philosophy. So what exactly happens is that when we know something unknown to us, knowledge comes as a combination of certain positive things, certain negative things. We don't even realize that. For example, when you were young and you were learning addition, you learned that 2 and 2 make 4. It's not only that 2 and 2 make more. This is the positive aspect. There's a negative aspect in it, that 2 and 2 do not make 5, 6, 7, etc. When I said, here is this pen, I see this as pen. At the same time, my mind also makes sure to tell me that this pen is not this microphone. The whole process is so fast and it's so organized that we don't even understand the working of the whole thing. What ultimately remains, according to Advaita, is pure consciousness. And under normal conditions, when we perceive, this pure consciousness comes to us with certain qualities attached to it. So, this entire discussion is about consciousness, perception, qualities. Remove the qualities because the qualities are actually not real. Remove the qualities, it's a product of the brain. Remove the qualities, you will be left only with pure consciousness. You don't have to come to Chit, Ishwar, all those. No, you don't have to. Anyway, if there is anyone who is a follower of Sri Ramanuja or say Madhvacharya, don't take any offense. We are discussing what Swamiji has said. There is only pure consciousness. The moment you add qualities to it, it appears to us as objects, as the world, as perception. With this, we begin what Swamiji has said. Ramanuja divides the universe into Chit, Achit, and Ishwar, man, nature, and God, that is conscious, subconscious, and superconscious. Shankar, on the contrary, says that Chit, the soul, is the same as God. Well, let's see what is. So, God is truth, His knowledge is infinity. These are not qualities. Any thought of God is a qualification, and all that can be said of Him is Om Tat Sat. Actually, this is something we have discussed many times. However, as I said, each one of our talks, each one is complete by itself. The fundamental difference between Advaita and any other system of thought, not only Ramanuja, but every other system, Christianity, Islam, everything, lies in the fact, what is God? Once you can understand the idea, what exactly is God, understanding this world, understanding ourselves, understanding everything else becomes very easy. How do you do it? Advaita says that Whenever we see something, as we will be discussing this, we see two things. There is consciousness and there is object. Object associated with, pure existence. Pure existence. There is object and existence. So if one object is destroyed, another object remains. So existence continues to be there. Even if you destroy all the objects, pure existence will continue to be there. And we can be conscious only of existence because there is no object, there is only existence. So existence is consciousness. And you feel happy only if you know something. Without knowing, you cannot be happy about it. Now, when there is nothing else left, if you have reduced everything to its causal state, there is pure existence, which is pure knowledge, that is Chit, and that is pure bliss. This is Sat Chidananda. This is Om Tat Sat. You can listen to our Vedanta talk given the Mandukya Karika. We have also discussed it many times and we will again discuss it many other times. So the difference between Advaita Vedanta and every other religion lies here. For others, for other systems of philosophy in India and other religions, is that God has qualities. God has qualities. In Vedanta, God doesn't have any qualities. The qualities that you are talking about, that itself is God. That means truth. See, normally you will say that truth is quality of God. Compassion, that is the quality of God. Vedanta will say that truth is God. Compassion is God. I don't know if the idea is clear to you. It may be slightly difficult to get this idea. But once this idea comes, your face will glow. You will understand, oh my God, this is Advaita. In Advaita, you don't have two. In Advaita, you don't even have one. Advaita means no duality. Because there is nothing else to judge what it is. The moment there is something to judge, that means there is mind. Because without mind, you can't judge. So now you have two. Advaita does not admit of one. Advaita does not admit of zero. In Advaita, counting begins with two. Either you say it is two, or you say that that which is cannot be expressed because there is no one else to express. So when Ramanuja says that you have Chit, you have Achit, you have Ishwar, or when other religions say that God is merciful, Jesus loves you. The moment you say Jesus loves you, you are talking about Jesus and you and love. So you have three things. In Vedanta, love is God. And there is no one else to say that. So love is not the quality of God. Love is God. See, not that Christians do not know of this. They know. But in their popular Christian culture, this is not there. Shankara further asks, can you see existence separate from anything else? Normally you cannot. It's not possible. So where is the differentiation between two objects? So why is it that we see two objects differently? It's not that we see one object and there is existence and there is another object. No, it's not. Actually, you are seeing pure existence. There are only different objects. When I see this pen and I see this microphone, I'm seeing two distinct objects. Because there is differentiation. So not in sense perception, else all would be one in it. Sense perception, for example, eyes, they work like cameras. Whole thing will become one single. We have to perceive in sequence. Actually, we perceive in sequence. We don't even realize it, but actually we perceive in sequence. And that is why When you are, say, looking at the ocean, either you see the ocean or you see the wave. You cannot see both simultaneously. That is the problem with spirituality too, Advaita too. Either you see God or you see world. You cannot see both at the same time. No, it's not possible. So in getting knowledge of what a thing is, we get also something which it is not. We don't even realize it. And that is why in Vedanta, in other some other systems also, abhav, absence, it forms a very important method of knowledge. See, normally when people talk about being scientific, they don't even understand all these things. That how abhav itself is such an important tool of knowledge. The way we are sure of our five senses. We say, we assert, I saw it myself, I heard it myself. Just like that, abhav, not seeing something also is a method of knowledge and a very important tool of knowledge. When I say that this is a pen, I also know that this is not an elephant. If I am asked that, is there an elephant in this room? I say no. Where did I see this absence? I have no answer. Because when I am perceiving this room, the room where this talk is being recorded, this room, it is sending sense data. And my mind is also working simultaneously to project that knowledge, that lots of things which I may imagine to be there is not there. Actually, it's not something very complicated. So when you learn mathematics, when you say that you got the wrong answer, it is a wonder that we know. It is a wonder that we know that 2 and 2 make 4. Because the possibility of 2 and 2 becoming anything is infinite, literally infinite. Whatever is there in the set of natural numbers, everything can be produced by 2 and 2. Yet our mind knows that those things are out of question. When there is a military operation, like for those of you who might have read, say, stories connected with Second World War, or if you have seen movies connected with the Second World War, you might have noted how a capable general used to camouflage things in such a way that the enemy used to be fooled, and sometimes they were not fooled. How? Because an expert mind not only knows things, it also knows what must not be known. That's the beauty. That's the beauty of mind. A powerful mind, a powerful mind, it knows the correct thing. It also knows all the wrong things. When you talk about a very powerful mind does not mean knowing the right answer. Powerful mind also means knowing what is not the right answer. Under normal conditions, when we are talking about ordinary arithmetic, such things do not come into play. But even in daily life, and particularly in decision making, those of you who are into management, who are into decision making, would know that. Not only that you have to know what decision to make, you also have to go by neti method. Not this, not this. This option is out, this option is out, this option is out. What remains is the answer. Oh, finally, BSNL has now made our, oh my God. It became stable and instantly it became unstable. My God. So this is a very important thing. Now, in spirituality also, exactly the same thing continues. You have to know what is the correct answer, and you must know what is not the correct answer. Most often, all of us, we know the incorrect answer. That's the difference. So a person like Sri Ramakrishna, he knew the correct answer. We know the correct answer. Those of us who are devotees, we know the correct answer. We also know the incorrect answers. And a combination of this correct and incorrect make us totally confused. So we know what to do, but we cannot apply that. The difference here are in the memory and are got by comparison with what is stored there. See, my favorite example is once I was visiting a family in Delhi, in Gurgaon, Mrs. Payal, and she had a kid who was, I think, 2 or 3 year old. We were having lunch, and some curry fell on his shirt. So, scared that mom may scold, and knowing that her mom used to wipe it clean with water, he took some curd from the bowl with a spoon. He must be less than three, and applied it on his curry and started wiping it clean. Water is liquid. Curd also is semi liquid. To him, it is liquid. And I laughed aloud, and her mom was sitting by my side. So she had not yet seen. So I told, see what your son is doing. This is the thing. This is our plight. We know what is done, what is to be done, how it is to be done. But we always do things wrongly because we don't have a complete knowledge. As our exposure increases, and that's why study of scriptures is very, very, very important. People don't understand the importance of scriptures. You need to know scriptures because as you study scriptures, your knowledge bank increases. As your knowledge bank increases, you learn what not to do. Every time some idea comes, you know what not to do. The difference here in the memory. Memory sorts it out, and this our mind, it comes in 4 phases. One of them is where data fixing. While fixing the data, it negates the possibilities of wrong data. So the difference here in the memory and are got by comparison with what is stored there. The technical term for this is upaman. Upaman is the technical term where you compare things. You have never seen a lion. You are talking about days when pictures were not there, movies were not there. So someone would give you a description of how a lion looks. You go to a forest or you go to a zoo and you see a lion. You already have some existing knowledge, some existing data, and you see that instantly it fits. Even though you have never seen lion earlier, you know that this is the lion. These are very important thing. See, so normally people go on talking about being scientific. They don't realize that these are very fundamental things, and people don't pay attention to these things. This all was caused by French Revolution, where they say that we want to believe in only what our senses say, and they were not willing to believe even equations. Difference is not in the nature of a thing; it is in the brain. This is a very important thing that we need to understand, particularly if you want to understand Vedanta, particularly if you want to understand Hinduism, you need to understand that this differencia, the qualities that differentiate one object from the other, does not actually lie in the object, lies here. The way that boy, that kid, for him, water and curd, they were same. Homogeneous one is outside, differencia are inside. See, this is Vedanta. This is Vedanta. That outside it's all one solid mass. pigeonholing happens here. If you watch, if you watch any kid who is maybe 2 months, 3 months old, you will see how everything to that kid is source of food, and he takes everything in its mouth. As the baby grows, the data grows. The data grow. And as the data grow, his power to differentiate grows. And then he knows what is what. Everything is here. Now, during religious practices, when you are practicing yoga, when you are practicing sadhana, when you do spiritual practices, you go back to that state of unlearning. When yoga teaches that cessation of vrittis, cessation of mental waves is yoga, I'll advise you to listen to our Raj Yoga talks. You are actually going back to that unlearning process. And through that unlearning process, this time you will not be seeing the world as a solid mass of material, but you will see this universe as one solid consciousness, because you are not a baby. You are being trained in a particular process. Your learning process has changed. So the idea of many is the creation of the mind. So many, multiplicity comes from the mind. Multiplicity does not lie outside. Differences become qualities when they are separate but joined in one object. See, the way Swamiji is talking, you see, he's essentially talking, he's actually talking from Shankaracharya's Brahma Sutra Bhashya. But these words appear as his own. That is why he is an Acharya. Swami Vivekananda is an Acharya. And what is that? Says, there are differentia. Differentia is a technical term, which means something that differentiates from the other. And they become qualities when they are separate but joined in one object. Here is this one object, pen. And you can see that it has two different colors, it has the power to write, and it feels like this. This is its length, and this is its thickness, etc., etc. All these differentia, when they combine together in one object, they become qualities. So what you need to do is just remove the differentia, just remove the qualities, and what will you be left with? Pure existence. Think of a piece of wood. We have a piece of wood, and if you go to one of these workshops where they work on wood, you cannot differentiate one plank from the other. It's a solid mass. And even before that, when it was a tree, it was a solid mass. And carpenters take those planks, make a chair out of it. Differentia has come. Then you create an ornamental chair. You make a throne out of it. See, more and more differentia are coming. More qualities coming. Remove those qualities. In essence, what is that ornamented chair? It's pure wood, nothing else. In essence, we are Brahman. In essence, we are pure consciousness. Simply because we have superimposed qualities. We are like this. When you train your mind not to look at the qualities, you go back to that state where you can see one solid mass of existence. And this existence is not different from pure consciousness, as we shall see. I hope you see, you may find these ideas subtle, You may find these ideas profound, but I always try to be as clear as possible. And dear viewers, please keep in mind that we are discussing something very profound. It takes calmness of mind. It takes repeated learning to understand all this. So don't mind. We cannot say positively what differentiation is. All what we see and feel about things is pure and simple existence isness. We are continuously seeing pure existence, that is isness. Yet, our brain, our mind, it is trained to differentiate. It is trained to differentiate. A person, Sri Ramakrishna used to say very beautifully, a person who is in the business of cotton threads, he knows the difference between 43 number of thread and 44. We cannot understand the difference. Once I was in Uttar Kashi, long ago, I was very young in those days, and I had met a monk of some other tradition, and he knew Ayurveda very well. And it so happened that once I took a I took some sugarcane juice, and immediately after that I took a cup of tea. I was actually suffering from cold, and every evening I used to go and spend some time with that monk, a very elderly monk. So he just took my pulse and instantly says that, look, your so and so pulse is racing like a horse. What have you done? I couldn't. I couldn't think. Then I remembered. I said, I had sugarcane juice and I also had a cup of tea. He said, look, that is why it's happening. So I got so fascinated. I said, I want to learn this. How to know why you cough, etc. So he laughed. He says, Sri Ramakrishna says that if you want to learn about nerve currents, you have to move around with a doctor for a long time. Once you are in a way of life, those of you who are electronic engineer, those of you who are a doctor, you can differentiate. But for me, everything is a solid mass. Just like that, we have been trained to look at the world. And because we have been trained to look at the world, so we see these small differences. And that is what makes this world go on for us. All else is in us. This is Vedanta. There is pure isness. There is pure existence. Everything else is here. You go to a school, you go to a college, you look at the students from a distance. They're all same to you. A mass of students. But the teacher who handles them knows what is the quality of one student and how another one is deficient. As far as we are concerned, everything is a solid mass. Brain knows how to differentiate. So the idea of God and the idea of world comes simultaneously. God, in the form of isness, pure existence, it is continuously coming. And our brain, trained to see the world, continuously pigeonholes the entire thing, and we see the world. All else is in us. Being is the only positive proof we have of anything. This is from Acharya Shankara. Acharya Shankar repeatedly talks about this thing. So those of you who have been listening to our Mandukya Karika talks, we have not done many talks, hardly 5 or 6. There you will see waking state is the ultimate measure of every other state. It's only in the waking state that you know about dream state and dreamless state and also about samadhi. So, so being is the only positive proof we have of anything. All differentiation is really secondary reality. There is isness and there is the secondary reality. So as a snake in the rope, second as the snake in the rope, because the serpent too had a certain reality. In that something was seen, although misapprehended. Earlier in one of these talks, we had discussed how Acharya Shankara introduces Brahma Sutra. He says, whatever your perception, even if it's wrong perception, you definitely have some knowledge of snake from some earlier perception. This is being. That is why waking state plays a very important role in all this, because all such knowledge comes in actually in waking state. And waking state creates that mass of information for us from which and through which we create all this differentiation. When the knowledge of the rope becomes negative, the knowledge of the snake becomes positive and vice versa. This is what happens. A famous example of Vedanta is snake in the rope. Here is a rope, and you are thinking it is snake. Why? Because the knowledge of snake is positive, although seen earlier somewhere. Right now, that knowledge has become prominent in you, and you are seeing snake in the rope. But the moment light comes, you see it's rope. Now what happens? Knowledge of snake becomes negative. Knowledge of rope becomes positive. The eureka moment. This exactly is what happens when you go for God realization. The knowledge of world. Every time we are talking about world, please keep in mind, every time we use the word world, we mean multiplicity. Multiplicity is world, and multiplicity is caused by the mind. In technical terms, in Raj Yoga, it's known as chitta vritti, multiplicity, mental waves. When you have multiplicity, you don't see the one. When you have seen the one, multiplicity doesn't come. But the fact that you see only one does not prove that the other is non-existent. So simply because I am seeing the world, that does not mean that God does not exist. This is the greatest proof of God. One is abhava. To know that a thing does not exist, you must have the knowledge of that and show that it is not present. For example, I've seen elephant, and I know elephant is not here, so I can say that elephant is not here. When you say God does not exist, when a person like Stephen Hawking, and recently I heard, I've forgotten that name, very famous movie maker, his name was there in newspapers, who proved that there is no God. To say that there is no God, you must have the knowledge of God. With that, the knowledge of absence of God. Of course, people don't understand this much. Stephen Hawking he was good with his mathematical equations, but who gave him the right to discuss spirituality? Just like snake in rope. You have to have positive knowledge. You also need to have a negative knowledge. This is something we never realize. Those of you, say for example, those of you who are into computer learning, You very well know that there is positive learning and there is negative learning. Both those things come together. Those of you who have been to gym, let's say, the gym instructor tells you to do an exercise in a particular way. This must be done this way, not that way. So positive and negative, they come in the same way, at the same time. No, it must not be done. So cricket coaches, football coaches, those of you who might have observed them, I have seen those football coaches in school. They would sit down, hold the feet of a player, and show how to hit the ball. That means the way the player hitting was wrong. The coach is setting it right. And simply because you have knowledge of one, simply because you have the knowledge of wrong, that does not mean that right does not exist. Simply because you have the knowledge of right, that does not mean that wrong does not exist. Simply because we have the knowledge of this world does not mean that God does not exist. Now, this is not by through analogy. There are sages who have experienced this, and Acharya Shankar has beautifully presented the entire thing in a logical sequence. I'll once again request you to listen to Talk on Vedanta. Milan Chatterjee, I don't know who you are, and I'll appreciate if you don't digress from the topic, because we are discussing something and you are dukkha kasto na pele resignation. I know who is talking about resignation here. This is wrong. My favorite expression. Please do not create cyber garbage. When you write comments like this, you are polluting the cyber world. Pollution is a very serious offense, whether that be of this world or of the cyber world. Please do not do it. The idea of the world is an obstruction covering the idea of God and is to be removed. But it does have an existence. This is Vedanta. So we have this idea of world. We can see this world. Our five senses are continuously taking in. Oh, what it does is it covers, and there is differentia. All these differentia combined in one object become qualities. Isness plus qualities becomes this world. The world is true, no doubt. But these differentia created by the mind create this idea of world. It's just a coincidence and pretty lucky that we are having Mandukya Karika simultaneously. So, Mandukya Karika also, they discuss the same thing. And says that the idea of the world is an obstruction covering the idea of God. Just like snake in the rope. And is to be removed. It does have an existence. World also has an existence. God also has an existence. Snake also has an existence. Rope also has an existence. Ocean has an existence. Waves also have existence. You need to get rid of one to be with the other. They say, don't miss the trees for woods and don't miss the wood for the trees. When you look at the wood, you miss the trees. When you look at the trees, you miss the woods. You decide what you want to know. Something like, as they say, when you have experiments in particle physics, If you want to know something about electron, you need to decide what do you want to know. Do you want to know its position, or do you want to know its velocity? If you go for one, you will miss out the other. Something similar happens. Either you see God or you see the world. You don't see the both. That is left for the greatest of masters. So our time is up. Thank you so much for listening patiently. We will continue with this because where Swamiji is explaining how for Shankaracharya perception is the last proof of existence. We will continue from there. And those of you, I had requested that just now within 2-3 minutes we will have one short talk of maybe 8-10 minutes on fundamentals of Hinduism, which is today's topic is being a Hindu. Being a Hindu, it's a topic. I'll request you people, we will be ending this stream. Within 2-3 minutes, we will start a fresh stream. Please join if you can. Thank you so much.